My Hero Academia Chapter 388 spoilers are here, and here's what happens in the chapter. Chapter 388 is titled Touya, and it's all about the Todoroki family trying to save Dabi. According to Rukasu, the chapter begins with Kendo immobilizing the All-for-One spies with her hands and informing the other heroes that those guys messed with the system, so the shelters are not gonna move again. At this time, we start seeing all the people from the shelter pods getting evacuated into the nearest exit, and that's where we see that the robots from UA are there too, and they're ready to take people to other safe spaces. All they have to do is give them an order. The heroes instruct the civilians to not look the other way to avoid seeing Dabi's giant heat spear, but the Todorokis ignore that warning. And this just shows how close everyone is to the battle, with them looking up and seeing the giant spear of flames caused by Dabi's attacks, and realizing that they're right there. On the 4th page of the chapter, we get a really close zoom in on Rei, who makes a really concerned face looking at the battlefield where Dabi and Endeavor are having their fight, and as her eyes open really wide, she immediately gets on one of the bike-shaped robots, asking Natsuo to protect his sister, leaving them behind. She then asks the robot to take her to the source of that heat, and the robot says that he's here to follow the human's orders, and that's when the flashback ends, as the robot carries Rei all the way over to Endeavor and Dabi's location, answering the question of how exactly it was that Rei ended up getting there in the first place. Now we cut back to the present, and the robot that Rei took all the way to Toya's location has totally been destroyed by the heat, and died doing a thumbs up as it completed its job to get her there. And this is going to be a really hard page to see for the Todoroki family fans, because Rei is not doing okay. She went from suffering to being with her family to now suffering and being with her family, as we see Rei taking a lot of damage from Dabi's fire. Rei screams "Touya" as her face continues to burn, and Endeavor wonders if she's been keeping herself alive using her ice on herself, and wonders if she plans to do the same thing with Touya by coating him in her ice. It's here on the next page where we see Endeavor telling Rei to back off, and on this page Endeavor's face is insanely charred, looking almost like Dabi's massively charred face, with the skin on Endeavor's face just like Rei's beginning to peel off. And it's here where Endeavor tells Rei to back off because she's gonna burn to death, but she responds by saying that the same goes to them. And we see Rei with both of her hands in front of her, using her full power ice output to again try and wrap Dabi in all of her ice, which seems like it's actually really cold because it is kind of surviving in this heat bubble, but Dabi's flames are just too strong, and it doesn't seem like it's quite enough. Dabi starts mumbling the words "Mom" to Rei, and Rei apologizes to him. Next he says "Natsu-kun," "Fuyumi-chan," and Rei realizes that the two of them have come along also. And that's exactly what we see on the page, as behind Rei, we see Natsuo and Fuyumi running towards Dabi in her path, and it seems like they're both also using their quirks as well, trying to make up for their mom's inability to actually use her quirk to coat Dabi in her ice. Rei turns and looks at Fuyumi and Natsuo and says that they absolutely shouldn't be here, but Fuyumi says she doesn't want to lose anyone else. It's at this point where Natsuo remembers when he used to ignore Toya's complaints, and he imagines himself properly talking to him as a kid, and he yells "Stop causing so much trouble, stupid brother," over to his brother Dabi, having the first conversation that the two have had in a very long time. And it seems like Natsuo really regrets not being able to listen to his brother a little more, because maybe it would have prevented things from reaching this point if he would have had something to say at that time. But that definitely wasn't Natsuo's responsibility, because at that point he was just as young as Dabi as well, if not younger. It's here at this moment when we see the entire Todoroki family all using their ice on Dabi to try and save him as best as they can, but Endeavor realizes that this is just not working, and what's going to actually happen is the entire Todoroki family is going to get burned away by Dabi's heat. So Endeavor thinks to himself that if he uses more fire to propel them upwards, Toya's body will reach its limit. He asks, "Please, don't take them too." And it's at this point where Horikoshi decides to go for our heart when he shows us a what-if image of the entire Todoroki family, with all of them standing together at the ages that they currently are right now, showing a grown-up Toya Todoroki wearing Dabi's jacket, pretty much showing what could have happened if things didn't go the way that they did, but Dabi still had that weird fashion sense that it seems like he has. And that, folks, is the spoilers for My Hero Academia chapter 388. It was an entirely Todoroki family focused chapter where we see the entire entire family struggling to save Dabi, and it seems like no matter how hard they use their ice, it's just not enough, and Dabi is going to need a higher level of power to take him down, which means we should be really grateful that Shoto is on the way. This chapter was only 11 pages long, shorter than your usual chapter, so who knows how Horikoshi was feeling when he was making this chapter, and if it was a full 18 pages, if we would have actually seen Shoto show up by the end of the chapter. However, next week, if we aren't going to go away from this area, I do believe we are going to see Shoto show up and try to save Dabi as well, and given that Dabi was one of those characters that I was 100% sure would not be able to be saved, this is a lot of work to do by having all these characters here just to reach that endpoint. So I'm starting to wonder if there is some sort of way that they are going to save Dabi and get him out of the situation, but even if they do, what's going to be left of him after this massive fiery rampage, or is his regenerative skin going to kick in here and heal him back to normal, or as close as he can to normal, and what's going on with the Dabi Phoenix theory? So these are all questions that we have for My Hero Academia chapter 389. Shout out to Rukasu, Dabi's pole dance, and Justice for the leaks, and My Hero Academia isn't on break next week, so we are likely going to be here again next week talking about exactly what goes on when Shoto once again comes face to face with his brother.